Neighborhoods or similar associations desiring to comment are asked to appoint one spokesperson to represent their concerns or point of view to the commission on each agenda item. The public has been encouraged to submit their comments in writing via a web-based form. All comments received prior to 3 p.m. today were forwarded unedited to the members of the Planning Commission. Any resident or property owner in the city may submit written comments through the public comment form for 24 hours after the public hearing has closed. The public comment form can be found on the Planning Commission website, and all comments received will be delivered to all members of the Planning Commission and City Council. All comments received will be made available to the public after the 24-hour comment period has ended. If additional time remains from the initial 2-minute from the two initial 10-minute public comment periods, the chair, in their discretion, may read some or all submitted written comments. Time for reading submitted comments will be limited to any remaining balance for comments in support or in opposition of an item. In addition, or in alternative, the chair, at their discretion, may give a summary of the number of comments in favor, against, and neutral to an item. All votes will be roll call votes. After proper motions are made and consistency statements read into the record, the chair will call each member by name, and each member should clearly state their vote, aye or nay, one at a time. After votes are cast, the chair will state the outcome of the vote and the action. This process requires extra patience and extra time. The chair should be prepared to frequently restate comments and questions and ask for a green light to move on. Zoning requests that receive an unfavorable recommendation from the Planning Commission may be appealed by the applicant to the Wilmington City Council. Appeals should be in the form of a letter submitted to the city clerk within 10 days of this hearing. Appeals for items heard tonight will be heard at the April 6th, 2021 City Council meeting. All righty, commissioners, you have in your packet the minutes from the February 3rd meeting. Are there any additions, corrections? Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Noticed on the page 5 last statement under items from the commission, I think maybe there was a skip of text with Ms. Bradshaw. I think suffice it to say that I felt like the items, the straight rezoning items that night were not typical. One of them was just short of the area required to do it under the current zoning, and the other one was municipal landfill conversion, and so that was my point. So if Ms. Bradshaw will make that correction, I can move to approve if others are willing.
So the second question, I mean the second sentence of that item.
Yeah, it says
like it revised a little bit.
Second to bottom line of items from the commission. Bowman said he felt like the items tonight did offer many options. I think there's some text that was skipped over in the transcribing.
Okay.
And I would say that it would just suffice it to say that the straight rezonings, that I didn't feel like they were typical rezonings, I think is sufficient.
All right, correction made. Thank you. Anyone else?
So if there are no others, I can move to approve the minutes of February 3rd, 2021.
Commissioner Bowman has moved to approve the minutes for February 3rd. Do we have a second?
Second, as amended.
Thank you. Commissioner Cortez is second, and I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman?
Bowman, aye.
Commissioner Cortez?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle? Aye. Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
And Commissioner Woodruff?
Aye.
The approval of the minutes is passed unanimously. All righty, so our first Item of new business. I believe we have a continuance requested. Is Patrick here to? And I understand the applicant is present also.
Yeah.
That's you. Okay.
Yes, I'm Rob Gillum with 4G Enterprises, and we'd like to request a continuance.
Commissioners, any discussion? No? If not, I'll love to hear a motion to continue this item to a date certain, or do you know when you'd like to come back?
Yeah, we were thinking next month.
Okay.
Next week.
So that would be the March, April. Oh, this is March.
April 7th.
April 7th. Thank you. So to a date certain of April 7th. Commissioner
Madam
Lennon,
Chair, I make a motion that we continue this item until our April 7th meeting.
do we have a second to continue this item to April 7th? Commissioner Sharp,
Second.
thank you. And we will do a roll call vote for this. Commissioner Bowman,
Bowman, aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye. Commissioner Sharp,
Sharp, aye.
Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
Thank you. The item is continued to April 7th, the unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and item 2 is also requesting a continuance, but the city is the applicant. Is that right? The city is going to request the continuance.
The city is not the applicant, but the city needs to request the continuance due to a public notice error.
Okay,
So we
public
are
notice.
requesting this item be continued to your April meeting as well.
Okay, and the applicant's not present.
That is correct.
Okay, commissioners? Discussion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we continue item 2 to April 7th planned meeting.
The motion is for the item number 2 to be continued to a date certain of April 7th. Do we have a second? Commissioner Bowman? And we will do another roll call vote for this one. Commissioner Bowman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye. Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
Thank you. This item is continued to April 7th. All right. Next, we move on to agenda item number 3, which is a conditional district rezoning for properties containing 1.39 acres located at 6825, 6827, 6829, 6831 Wrightsville Avenue and 1990 Allens Lane from R15 residential to multifamily medium conditional district to allow a 17-unit residential development. And I believe Jeff Walton is here to give the staff presentation.
Well, if I can get this thing to work. There we go. Okay, the applicant proposes to rezone the subject parcels from R15 residential to multifamily medium conditional districts for a residential townhome development consisting of 7 buildings for a total of 16 units. This is the regional map that kind of shows you where this property is located near Lumina Station and the Galleria site. The subject site was part of a 1995 annexation effective January 31st of 1999. At one point, there were 3 residential houses that existed on site until 2012. Sometime between 2012 and 2016, all the homes were removed and the property has remained vacant. These are some of the photos of the site itself being cleared and the 2 trees. I have pictures of 2 of the trees being preserved. There are 3 trees being preserved on site. This is looking away from the site as far as Allen's Lane and the townhome development across the street, the Galleria again, and then Wrightsville Manor to the west. The site plan on the screen shows the general layout of the proposed development. No driveways are proposed off Wrightsville Avenue. All traffic will use Allen's Lane for access. The applicant proposes a 6-foot wide sidewalk along Allen's Lane and Wrightsville Avenue, exceeding the required width of 5 feet. 2 sidewalk connections are proposed on Wrightsville Avenue, as well as Allen's Lane on each unit fronting. The site is located in a watershed resource protection area and would be subject to the exceptional design criteria during the technical review process. The proposal is located within areas identified as a community connect corridor, a special character street, an urban mixed-use center, a mixed-use place, a high-capacity transit route, and a high-density transition area of opportunity on the comprehensive plan growth strategies map. The proposal is consistent of infill development with the surrounding area with little impact to the adjacent properties, allowing multifamily development that is consistent with the surrounding area and the location near commercial services is encouraged. The proposal is also located in the Wrightsville Sound Small Area Plan. The plan supports transitioning to higher density residential or commercial areas. Acceptable development patterns are non-residential uses, including office, retail, and restaurant, as well as residential up to high density multifamily. The plan also encourages using low impact development techniques to reduce impervious surface coverage and improve water quality. The proposal is consistent with many policies of the Wrightsville Sound Plan. Staff believes the amendment is generally consistent with the many policies of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, the Wrightsville Sound Small Area Plan, the Walk Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, the city's adopted focus areas, and staff believes the request is reasonable and in the public interest, and we recommend conditional approval subject to the conditions contained in the case summary. I'd like to address one additional item that came about this week from our staff meeting. We'd like to clarify one of the conditions to state that all protected trees shall be preserved unless they're deemed a hazard by the city arborist. We felt this was important to include. The applicant is already preserving all the trees on site and has actually reduced the project by 1 unit in regards to the trees. So we felt that this was an appropriate condition. And the second one is the applicant is already proposing no driveways off Wrightsville Avenue. We just wanted to back that up with a condition as well. So these are 2 conditions we would ask the board to consider if they are to make a recommendation for approval tonight. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a clarification on condition 9. I'm assuming you mean vehicular access via the internal drive.
That's correct.
Okay.
Vehicular access.
Okay. Thank you.
No, we want to encourage the pedestrian access, and that's what they're.
Right, just it reads pretty literal that they have to be accessed via the internal drive.
I can see that. Our intention was vehicular access.
So we can, condition 9 could be instead of driveway access, vehicular access.
That's correct.
Does that have how we could make that clear? Or in the second sentence, all vehicles must access via the internal drive.
you could say all units must be accessed. Well, yeah. I'll just say that.
One driveway, one driveway access. So would you read that, condition 9, Jeff, how we?
I
you
guess
want
I
us
would
to-
say, no units or buildings shall have vehicular driveway access off Allen's Lane or, well, I don't know. I don't know if Brian or someone else can see that, but I would say the intention would be for vehicular access and not pedestrian access.
Mr. Satterfield?
After the public hearing and when you get to the point to make a recommendation, should you want to recommend approval, conditional approval, I think you could put in the word vehicle access, but also to me, the intent was no individual driveways for
Right.
each building or unit. So I would consider putting the word individual in there as well.
Oh, I like that. Okay, and, still digesting number 6 here. Let's see. Okay, I don't see my commissioners, so let me just take a peek and see if anybody's got their hand up before we move on to the applicant. All right, commissioners, I can see you from at home. Anybody have any questions or comments at this point for staff? Okay, great. We'll move on to the applicant's presentation.
It's the 5. Just hit this button.
Okay.
The back up. Hit that button.
Okay, I can take this off.
Yeah, sorry.
Good evening, members of the City Planning Commission. My name is Josh Mahaley with Mahaley Land Design. I appreciate you continuing the planning process through this. It's great that we can continue to work together and find ways to keep the planning process going in Wilmington. I represent Allen's Lane Partners in this proposed rezoning of 1.39 acres from R15 residential to multifamily medium density to construct 16 townhome units located in 7 buildings. We've been fortunate over the years to be involved in many successful projects in this portion of Wrightsville Sound. Back in 2014, we brought before this planning commission the Spartina project, which consisted of 22 townhomes and a small commercial office building. It was a very successful project. We've also played a lead role in the landscape architecture of Lumina Station and the newly constructed ABC store. So we have a tie to this area, and we strive to make sure it looks good for the city. This is an opportunity to bridge the gap further with a well-designed infill development that harmonizes with its surroundings. The Wrightsville Sound area is part of the city's small area plan. Development in this portion of the city carries additional design considerations that we are very familiar with. There's a great deal of consideration in project planning and articulation of architecture due to the historical character of this area. Some of the planning recommendations that Jeff had also stated is we support master plan development, transition to higher density residential or commercial. Acceptable development patterns are non-residential, office, retail, restaurant, duplex, triplex, quadruplex. Design should be integrated with existing development. Provide parking underneath the structures. Utilize low impact development techniques to reduce impervious surface. Encourage bicycle and pedestrian access and connections to surrounding land uses. All these factors have been introduced into the plan before you tonight. Some of the highlights of the plan that you see on the screen. The buildings have all been strategically aligned in front out onto Wrightsville Avenue as well as Allen's Lane. One entrance into the site will be accessed via Allen's Lane. No driveways will be protrude onto Allen's Lane or to Wrightsville Avenue. The 3 specimen oak trees will be preserved as part of this plan. A small community pocket park will be in the center of the project that will act as a community gathering area and mail kiosk. Pedestrian sidewalks will flank both Allen's Lane and Wrightsville Avenue with a pedestrian connection. All the proposed paving in the project will be pervious. Stormwater will be located underground through infiltration, and the project will be exceptionally designed. I'm going to go through a few of the slides. Before you is the site plan for the project showing the 7 buildings and 16 units. And you can kind of see the larger trees where the existing oaks are. This is a context map. It shows the site plan and how it relates to the Spartina development, Lumina Station, Intercoastal Realty, the new ABC store, Craft Hardware, and Lumina Commons. This is a context plan showing the site, how it exists today. I'm just going to kind of scroll through these as a site inventory map. This is the site plan. Meets all the TRC requirements of the city. We've gone through TRC with this. This is the proposed utility plan. John Tunsel's here tonight if you have any questions regarding the utility plan. As I stated, all the proposed driveways and the roads will be pervious, and all the stormwater will be located underground. The site has some great soils on it, so it allows us to infiltrate all the water. And this is the Spartina project. We put these in here. We don't have the architecture nailed down on this yet, but you know, it's the same developer that did Spartina, so the architecture is going to articulate well with what was done at Spartina. It's probably going to be a little bit different. We don't want to just mimic it exactly, but this is what was done next door. I'm going to go back to the site plan. And I'm here to answer any questions you all might have.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? I think I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this item? No one here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak opposed to this item? No one here for this item. And I don't think I'll verify with Ms. Bradshaw, we did not receive any comments over the web form for me to read into the record. So I will close the public hearing and ask for discussion, questions, thoughts from the commissioners. Commissioner Bowman.
I think this seems to be consistent with the guiding documents, so I'm in agreement with staff on that. And appreciate the preservation of those 3 trees. I think that's much needed along that roadway.
I would have to agree with Commissioner Bowman. I think that it's a very well thought out site plan, and especially appreciate the low impact development techniques that work there, especially in that area. All right, what is the will of the commission? Commissioner Bowman?
Madam Chair, I'd like to approve agenda item number 3, which is a request for 6825, 6827, 6829, 6831 Wrightsville Avenue and 1990 Allens Lane to rezone from R15 to MFM conditional district. And that this request is consistent with objectives and policies of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington: Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, City of Wilmington Strategic Plan, Wrightsville Sound Small Area Plan, and that the Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable in the public interest because of the congruity with the plans just mentioned, and that the proposed development would add to the mix of uses in the area and would not adversely impact the desired character of the existing built environment. And I make this motion with the 9 conditions, with the condition, I think it was number 6, inserting the word vehicular, speaking to access from the internal drive, and the final, well, I guess I don't have the slide up to know which, but the other one can stand as it was proposed by staff.
And Mr. Bowman, just to clarify, number 6, if my memory serves me correctly, was dealing with the trees, and I don't.
Oh, right. Okay. That can stand as staff modified. And what was it? Item number 9, I guess,
Number 9
was
the vehicular.
the new one about vehicular access must be from the internal drive, the insertion of the word vehicular.
We have a motion from Commissioner Bowman to approve item number 3. Do we have a second?
A second.
Commissioner Lennon with a second. All righty, and we'll get started with our roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye, Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
and Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Moving on to agenda item 4. We have a street closure. It's a closure of a portion of the old highway Airlie Road right-of-way located on the south side of Airlie Road, directly adjacent to 106 and 110 Airlie Road, and approximately 200 feet from the Oleander Drive right-of-way. The subject right-of-way area consists of 0.124 acre of land. Jeff Walton is here again for this item for the staff presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chambers. He's there. Okay, we didn't know if the applicant's here, so. Thank you. The applicant proposes to close a partially improved right-of-way portion of Old Highway Airlie Road, which is approximately 207 feet in length along Airlie Road. This is a regional aerial of the subject site. As you can see, it's close proximity to Airlie Road, Oleander, and Airlie Gardens. The site is located in the 1995 annexation area, effective January 31st, 1999. And you can see it's a remnant right-of-way portion of the West Airlie Road. These are photos of the existing conditions on site, looking at the road from the west and looking east, as you can see. These are some of the adjacent parcels looking across Airlie Road to St. Andrews on the Sound Church, the Airlie West subdivision, as well as the 2 properties that are affected by this closure to the south. As stated, the request is to close a partially improved right-of-way portion of Old Highway Airlie Road, located along the frontage of 106, 110 Airlie Road. The triangle-shaped closure measures 207 feet 207 feet in length to the west and is approximately 0.12 of an acre. If approved, the street closure request would add additional street frontage and lot area to the adjacent 2 lots to the south. The comprehensive plan calls for consideration to be given to the impacts of a right-of-way closure may have on the public street network, including vehicular and pedestrian mobility. Since there are existing road connections already in place in close proximity to the site, staff believes the request would not impair the surrounding street network. The site is located within the plan boundary of the Rights of Sound Small Area Plan. For land use changes, the plan recommends retaining single-family zoning or use. The closure of this right-of-way may allow for redevelopment that is consistent with the recommended land uses for the area. Closing this public right-of-way would not impair the surrounding public street network. It would not adversely impact neighboring properties. The closure would result in additional street frontage and lot area for residential lots adjacent to the right-of-way, allowing for potential redevelopment. Staff recommends that the existing water, sewer, mains, the future pedestrian sidewalks, and drainage from Airlie Road be placed within a public drainage utility and pedestrian easement to be recorded upon approval of the street closure. The proposed closure is consistent with the recommendations of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, the Rights of Sound Small Area Plan, and the city's strategic plan. Staff recommends approval of the request. I'm here to address any questions you may have.
Commissioners, are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Sharp?
My question is one of ignorance. So if this right-of-way is closed, does the land automatically convey to the property owners to the 2 adjoining lots?
Sure, that's a great question. Normally, when you close a street, half would go to one side and half would go to the other. But in this instance, since there is an existing right-of-way of Airlie Road to the north, both the parcels would then go to the properties to the south. So it would be cut, along the property line, and then portions of the right-of-way would go towards 106 and 110 Airlie Road.
So to follow up, so then the larger lot size would be reevaluated in terms of tax value.
That's great. The larger lot size would be added to the tax rolls, and it could allow for future redevelopment for both of those properties in the future.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lennon?
I just had 2 questions. Do the property owners pay for that?
I don't think they pay for it per se, but they do go through this street closure process, and there is a cost when it comes to the application fees for the closure itself, the recording fees, as well as the required advertising fees that the general statutes require. They require 4 consecutive weeks of advertising that the applicant would be on the hook to pay.
Thank you. And then my second question is, you mentioned the utility easement. If I recall correctly, I think Airlie Road's one of the only streets where there's actually no right-of-way other than the road itself. So where would those utilities, are they in now currently?
Per our GIS, there is an existing sewer main that kind of runs, it kind of runs closer to the right-of-way. And then there's a sewer main that just cuts this corner off here. You can kind of see that highlighted there. But before they can officially close the right-of-way, they would have to work with our engineering, CFPUA, and others to make sure all the public easements are in place before they can officially record the closure.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but are there trees along there now?
I'm not sure. Maybe the applicant can discuss that. I know there's a tree line here because this has been traditionally fenced off for a very long period of time. So there may be some trees affected within the right of way.
I just have visions of CFPUA requiring them to be cut down as part of the easement agreement.
Yeah, I haven't been part of those discussions, but I'm sure the applicant can maybe address those.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Woodruff?
Jeff, just a curious question. Is there any more of this right of way that could face closure, or is this finish it?
I believe this finishes it. The area, oh, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. The area in this here, I believe, has already, it's no longer right of way. I believe it's part of the private development of Fairleigh West, I believe. So this is the last remaining piece of the old highway that was, I mean, this is basically from the 20s, back when they had the rail system going out to Wrightsville Beach. This is kind of a remnant piece of an old road.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. At what point will the survey be done to put the easements in place? Is that something that will be on the map that City Council sees if we move it forward tonight?
The easements we've been actively discussing those with the applicant. And so we put it on the applicant that says, it basically states that we aren't going to allow the closure to be recorded until the easements have been addressed and recorded as well. So we're going to capture that in a public easement of some sort before it's recorded.
Mr. Chambers?
Yes, the approval order that council ultimately adopts will have a condition that requires the easement be recorded based on staff input as to where it needs to be located to accommodate all of the access utilities and infrastructure that's located in that area.
Okay. Great. And did you say the applicant was here?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Walton.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Howard Capps. I'm a landscape architect and land planner here in Wilmington, and I'm representing the two adjacent property owners. I've got a few slides that I thought might show this site to you a little closer than what has been shown tonight. So if I could call up those two slides. The first slide. This shows an aerial view, a close-up view of the old section of the concrete section of the old Airlie Road. And this road goes back to, as far as we know, to the early 20s, maybe 1921. But this is the part of the original road that carried you from Wilmington to Wrightsville Beach. And as Jeff has mentioned, there was a railroad or a trolley that took you to Wrightsville Beach along this same section of right-of-way. You can see that this is concrete. You can see a little patch of asphalt between number 5, which is the existing Airlie Road that we all use today. Also to the left, a question came up about any trees on the site, and there are no trees within this triangular shape that we're requesting closure on. There is a large tree just off of this area, and it's between the access to West Airlie, which is a subdivision. So there's a road, then there's a green strip, and then the area that we're proposing or requesting closure on. Next slide. This shows you the same area, just a little further out. You can see the access road that ties back into number 3, which is, again, the old section of Airlie Road. And then 1 is the area that we're proposing or requesting closure on. And you can see that green strip in between the two. Next slide, please. This is a photograph of the concrete. Again, this is the old Airlie Road, concrete, there's an asphalt patch between existing Airlie Road today and the old section. And you're looking towards Oleander Drive intersection. In the next slide. This is looking at the same section of concrete, looking back towards the road. And so Oleander Drive would be to your back. So I think this gives you a good view of what is there. And the primary concern of the applicants is to have better access directly to Airlie Road, which they do not have now. They can drive across all of this to get to Airlie Road, but they would like to have a cleaner line along the existing Airlie Road, take their property out to that road. And as Jeff has indicated, we had a meeting yesterday with Jeff, like a Zoom meeting yesterday to discuss the easements that the city is requiring. And of course, Cape Fear Public Utilities, I've been talking with the engineer there, and they went out today to confirm what the client, the property owner, had the utilities marked. So they went out, they being Cape Fear Public Utilities, went out today to look at the flagging, and they agreed that the water line is going to be and remain in the right of way, even after this closure, if it's approved. And they had a map. The city had an aerial map or GIS map that showed a line going through this triangular shape. And we believe that that is not there. And I think Cape Fear Cape Fear Public Utilities went out today and looked, and they agree that there does not appear to be a line through this triangular shape. The water line is out in the right of way. We've also discussed with Cape Fear Public Utilities possibly moving the service lines, and then whatever's in this triangular shape, we would propose that whatever kind of easement is required. But we think if we move the water service and the sewer service closer to the existing Airlie Road, it would eliminate the need for easements. But again, we're working with the city staff on all of this before any map is recorded and any kind of deed description is changed to show the property line at the new Airlie Road instead of where it is now. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. Commissioners, any questions? I wanted to confirm one statement you made, that both of these sites are going to want to have a driveway. So it's going to go there. Right now they're going out. They're entering and exiting Airlie Road on the same curb cut. And now
No, they're not. They're right now, 106 has access to this larger section of triangle. 110, which is the smaller, if you could you put up that the last slide I think that Jeff showed of the survey? Back. That one. This one right here, you can see the site on the right, which is 110 Airlie Road. It's a much smaller triangle. Their driveway runs right along the left property line of 110, and they continue to have access. And we don't anticipate that area changing much because the concrete and all the paving is already there right in front of their driveway. So they may choose to just continue to use that, where 106, the existing driveway, little filled area with a pipe under it, is on the left side again of 106, which is on the left side of this area to be closed. So what we've talked to staff about is, since the property owner is not ready to develop the property, which is zone R20, we've talked to the staff about working out all the details within the right of way so we can determine where easements are needed and so forth. And then at some future date, what the client would like to do is just clean the area up, because it's just kind of an eyesore really on Airlie Road.
Agreed. What I was getting at is, are we, with this road closure, are we going from one driveway and making two driveways onto Airlie Road?
Well, there'd be the existing one, which we don't anticipate changing. Yes, at some future date, there'd be another driveway.
It's a little
But they're
concerning
two
since it's so
separate- they're
close
two
to the
separate
intersection.
properties. It's not one property, it's two properties.
Right. So right now, each property is accessing it from a different
Correct.
drive now. So we're not increasing the number of drives
Well,
with the road closure.
I don't believe we are because
Okay.
106 is accessing, you can see on the survey on the left side of the proposed closure, you can see a gravel drive, and that's, you can either access it that way or drive out and use the concrete old section to get to Airlie. So the property, we've talked to staff, and the property has a right to have access to Airlie Road. It just isn't going to be shown as part of all the easements because he's not ready to build a home and put in a driveway.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Capps. Any
Madam Chair,
questions? Mhm.
just to address your question in layman's terms, I mean, right now, figuratively speaking, on the left side, it's kind of a free-for-all once they come off their
Right.
property as to how they get on Airlie Road. But you're saying at some point there'll be a defined driveway there.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
So right now, it's for the property on the left, it's sort of a free-for-all once they come off their property onto this easement area,
Right.
how they get on Airlie Road. But there'll be a defined driveway at the time the property's developed.
At some point, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great follow-up question. And I can't quite see all the commissioners. There we go. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Or continue discussion from the commission? Commissioner Cortez?
Just trying to look, does one of the properties have access to Airlie Road through Edge Hill? My glasses on.
That'd be
look
great
at that
to-
again.
If you have the answer. Okay, sure, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
I mean, actually, it looks like both of them have access to
I am,
Edge Hill.
I am Michael Brown. I am through a family partnership. My wife and children own this lot. Also, I am the resident, a resident off of the driveway of Edge Hill Road. This lot is not contiguous with my property at 122 Edge Hill Road. So this lot is an L-shaped lot, R20. It fronts on the driveway coming in, but that driveway is not, my family has an easement to come in on that driveway, but not to us, to our property at 122 Edge Hill Road. So there's no, we do not, this lot has no, our ownership of this lot has no ownership or easement to where the lot is contiguous. I'll stop there and be more specific if you have a question.
Yeah, I think to properly address Commissioner Cortez's question, maybe we could have the map back up. But because we're looking at 106 and 110, I'm not sure where 122 Edge Hill is. Okay, so it's probably not on this Okay.
Yeah, I think you need a different map that goes and shows where Edge Hill is and how those other two properties,
This is,
yeah.
Mhm.
This lot has no easement or in that roadway or
Is Edge Hill Road private?
Pardon?
Is Edge Hill Road private?
yes.
Okay, so you would have to get permission from the development to access it,
Yeah, we'd have to
get a
get
driveway
permission,
off.
get permission of my wife's aunt.
Commissioner Cortez, did you have any follow-up questions to that?
No, it just seemed if, just looking at that, it would seem to be a little bit safer per what you were saying to be able to access Airlie Road through Edge Hill rather than having two more driveways coming right out to Airlie right as you turn there.
Mhm.
That would be my concern.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the question.
Mr. Brown, what we're getting at is, could both of these lots get permission from your wife's aunt to access Edge Hill Road and have driveways there instead of increasing the number of driveways on Airlie Road so close to the intersection with military?
Well, Let me address it. Sure.
Just from the map we see, it looks like there could be access, but so that's why we need more information.
Well, again, we have discussed access with the city engineer, Rob Gordon and Jeff about access. And one of the issues on the back piece of the property that connects to Edge Hill, there's a large area of wetlands that has to be dealt with. And so the fact that this right of way has been in this condition for so many years, the neighbor 110 has direct access already because the triangle is so small, as you can see here. It's right where the driveway is, and it looks like they're not going to have to do anything. They just drive out like they've been doing. But in the case of 106, Mr. Brown's property, he right now is just driving into new Airlie Road, existing Airlie Road, across either gravel or the concrete. And his desire is to clean up the front of that piece of property. And again, we have been talking to staff about easements and so forth. So a plan will be presented, and we're hoping we can present it maybe prior to the city council meeting, is what we're working towards. Because we did have an initial zoning plan assessment with staff on the phone yesterday, or not a phone, but a Zoom type meeting. And we've discussed working towards a plan that we can present, because right now what we have is a blanket easement on this, this triangular shape, just to be able to move the process forward.
Thank you for your explanations. Any other thoughts, questions from the commission? Thank you. Okay, what is the will of the commission? Oh, that's right. We have a public hearing for road closures as well. I'm going to open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this street closure? And there's no one here to speak at the public hearing. So the public hearing is closed. And do we have any comments come in over the web form? No comments over the web form? All right, now, what is the will of the commission? Commissioner Lennon?
Madam Chair, I move to approve agenda item number 4, Airlie Road street closure portions of, Old Highway Airlie Road. This request is consistent with the objectives and policies of the plans adopted by the following plans and policies adopted by the City of Wilmington: the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, the City of Wilmington Strategic Plan, the Wrightsville Sound Small Area Plan. Planning Commission considers approval to be reasonable and in the public interest, as closing this public right-of-way would not impair the surrounding public street network and would not adversely impact neighboring properties.
Great, thank you. The motion on the floor from Commissioner Lennon is to approve agenda item number 4. Do we have a second? Commissioner Woodruff?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go through a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye. Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
Great. The approval is passed 6-0. All right. Any items from the commission? Commissioner Lennon?
This is just a question for staff. I didn't feel it was appropriate given what the policies are now, but why do we just give away city right-of-ways instead of being compensated for them?
This might be a good question for our city attorney.
That's a great question. By statute, we are not allowed to sell right away. And we can't turn it into surplus property. So if it's city right away and we don't need it or use it, the only option really is to abandon it. And the process that the statute set up is that, and as I think Jeff did a good job of explaining it earlier, this property on each side, it's kind of split down the middle between the two parcels. This one's a little unusual if it's ultimately passed by city council, since it abuts another right of way. Those two abutting properties would increase in size, but it's it's something that would have to be changed by the legislature if it were to change. But that's kind of the rule that we have right now, regarding right of way. There are other rules in place for disposal of other city property, but this is the rule that we have to follow regarding right of way.
It would just be added to the tax roll.
What? I'm sorry?
It would just be added to the tax roll. Now it's taxable land because it's under private ownership.
Right. I'm just wondering, incremental at best, I would think. But I mean, is it something worth looking into, or I don't know how often this, I've only been here 5 months and there's been 2 of these already.
It's not something we do a lot of, but they seem to come in waves. Like we make go 3 or 4 years without doing any street closures. And the next thing you know, we get 3 or 4 in successive months. As far as the city looking at anything to do to be able to charge for that property, unless the legislation is changed at the state level, there's nothing that we can do as from hearing what the attorney just said. So unless we followed up with looking for that legislation to be changed in Raleigh, we can't charge for that property, but we can, as Jeff explained, recoup fees for processing. Pretty much every fee that's associated with the closure, from the application fee to registration fees to the notices in the paper and registered certified mail that goes out is paid for by the applicant. And they do add up a little bit. And then as Brian just stated, it gets on the tax records from there, or tax rolls from there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lennon. Anything else from the commission? All right, we'll move on to items from staff, and I understand we have a presentation. Are you introducing that, Mr. Satterfield?
You can. We have a presentation from the Workforce Housing Advisory Committee staff that Rachel LeCoe from the Hanover County will be presenting.
Thank you. Good evening. For those of you I have not met, I'm Rachel Coe, the Workforce Housing Planner for New Hanover County. and I'm a member of the Long Range Planning Division, where our housing and community development initiatives are housed. I'm the staff liaison for the Joint City and County Workforce Housing Advisory Committee. And I'm here tonight to give updates on the workforce housing initiatives and to provide you with some information on how you may be involved. I'm joined here tonight with Suzanne Rogers, the city's community development and housing planner with the Community Services Department, and she's the head of its Housing and Community Development Division. Suzanne is a designated staff person for the city support for the advisory committee as well. For those of you who are not familiar, in 2019, Wilmington City Council and New Hanover County Commission established a long-term joint City of Wilmington and New Hanover County Workforce Advisory Committee as a result of recommendations from the 2017 Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee. So a quick introduction to the committee. You'll see it consists of 13 members, the chair of the Joint City and County Community Relations Committee, along with 6 appointees from county commissioners and 6 appointed from city council, representing an at-large position, the business and education community, a representative from the Cape Fear Realtors, the development community, the financial community, and the nonprofit housing community. So you may recognize some of those names. Next slide, please. So the elected boards established bylaws explicitly listing the committee's duties, which were primarily the activities of the committee over the past year. The first was to engage a consultant to prepare a comprehensive housing study and statistically valid housing opinion survey that will identify the housing needs for the community over the next 10 years. And this will be broken down by income level and price point. The survey was included to get a baseline of our community's mindset of the degree of the problem and the extent of government or other interventions that they believe are necessary to address this matter. The committee will use the data from these reports to prepare a housing work plan and public awareness campaign. This is tied to the long-term goal of increasing access to and supply of housing affordable to the county's workforce and the committee's activities, which is to provide ongoing information and advice to boards and other organizations. Next slide, please. So once the study reports are completed, which we expect in early April, a housing work plan will be developed that creates goals and recommendations aimed at improving and increasing the housing stock in the city and the county. Next slide, please. So the housing work plan will include strategies for housing affordability broken into specific goals for households at different income levels, price points, and products. As the committee looks at the housing gap over the next 10 years, it's important to remember that these different price points are going to require different strategies. When you look at these different levels of housing affordability, you'll see some of these products will be able to be delivered naturally by the market, while others will require interventions to reach those price points. Obviously, the higher the income range, the fewer interventions will be needed to close the gap. Next slide, please. So how do we do it? Well, there are 2 primary approaches to address the issue of affordability. You either make affordable housing products or you make housing affordable for the person. Next slide, please. So we're here tonight because one of the strategies that will be included in the work plan is focused on land use. And we want to assure you that this is not the only time you're going to hear about this plan or any recommendations. As we go through strategy recommendations, if there's any proposed code revisions or changes to planning policy that are put into this plan, they'll go through the normal process. We'll be working with city staff or county staff to make sure that it goes through the normal process. You'll hear about them. Next slide, please. But thankfully, our community is in a much better position than a lot of other communities developing housing work plans. Both the city and county have developed tools to address housing affordability in their recent code updates. So we have best practices already in place or proposed to be in place. At the county, new districts were introduced that allow higher density in a variety of housing types. And as you're aware, the proposed changes in the city's land development ordinance will address some of this missing middle housing by eliminating some parking requirements in certain areas, increasing where attached dwelling units can be located. Next slide, please. So as far as the timeline, the Workforce Housing Advisory Committee met earlier today to start identifying goals and tools. We'll be hosting some strategy themed breakout sessions on March 16th for committee members and other stakeholders, such as yourself, to join in the conversation. As I mentioned earlier, we're on track for an April public release of the consultants' reports of the housing study and survey. Those will be presented to both the Board of Commissioners and City Council on April 5th and 6th. The committee will later present their recommended strategies and work plan to council and the commissioners at a joint city and county meeting later in April. Next slide, please. Thank you again for having me this evening. I know everyone's excited to review the reports and have some actionable items to address housing affordability in our community. So I provided our contact information and hope you can join us at one of our breakout sessions. But Suzanne and I are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on such a special topic to many of us. We appreciate you coming to the meeting today to share your progress on it. We really look forward to the report and how we can play a part in the city and county's goals for workforce housing. So thank you so much for your time tonight. All right, staff, anything else? City council meeting last night?
I didn't go to the city council meeting last night. I'm trying to remember what was on it. I think the one was the rezoning for the old landfill property there off of Sir Tyler, over Conversation Road. That property was approved on first reading, second reading is scheduled for their meeting on March 16th. The other item was Adam Street for the straight rezoning for those properties, and it was approved. Again, first reading approved, second reading moving forward to council on March 16th. There was some discussion about the stormwater system for Sunset South that has city staff has been asked to look into and work with the Sunset South Property Association. So that was it.
Great, thank you.
I will add that we are on schedule to release the land development code April 1st, March 31st, April 1st deadline. We're on schedule to do that. We may contact you for a work session in the middle of this month that would be likely remote or virtual to just discuss and explain the rollout process. Glenn will be doing a presentation to City Council following the agenda briefing on March 15th with a very similar presentation. In that presentation, though, we also want to include what we're calling an interactive zoning map that the citizens can use. So if you're interested in knowing how is the code impacting your property, it would have you would click on your property, and then there would be a menu with some additional links or some basic information. If you're zone R15, you might not see any changes. But if you have questions, like here's a phone number to call, or here's emails to send questions to. We're also trying to work on our web page for that project as well. So once we unveil or provide the release of the document, how things are going to work. So a lot of things going on in the background as we're moving forward. We're trying to finish and finalize the document to get out for public inspection. That's all that I have.
Thank you for your update and for all your hard work on that. Coming down the home stretch. All right. Of course, Commissioner Lennon.
Sorry, I just had a quick question for Ron. There were a couple items that we talked about in work sessions, or I guess that were presented, that were continued by staff. When do those get readdressed, or is that addressed as part of the whole rollout?
Some of them will be addressed in the rollout. Example, the open space. That will be addressed. That is addressed in the rollout. In fact, the presentation or the information that was included or put out there earlier was the language that we already have in the code. So it's already captured in from what we're proposing. There are some things too, some discussions that were brought up during this the work sessions we've had with you, where we've made some changes as a result of the conversation. There's others where we had some very detailed conversations on a staff level that we felt like we were just going to move forward with that, what we proposed. I believe we're going to try to pull some type of little, what I'm going to call a little cheat sheet together that will show, this was discussed at planning commission, this is the change we made, or this is, we decided not to make a change because. That's what our intent is. If we can get there by the end of the month, on those kind of things. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I'm assuming part of the rollout will be the how public reaction or stakeholder reaction is measured and gauged.
Yeah, if we can gauge that for sure. We do want to monitor the input that's provided once it is released. So we'll have a system in place to, citizen provided comments on this, and so we will have that information in place. We're currently track that now anyway. You may recall last presentation I did, I had a couple of comments that were provided on parking as an example. So we're tracking and keeping that information together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else, commissioners, staff? Great, well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Bowman,
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Bowman. Do we have a second? Commissioner Woodruff?
Woodruff. Second.
Second, and I'm going to just take a voice vote for this one. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.